Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. For today's video, I'm going to be talking about the books that I read in October. Alright, so first off, I have a different background. I switched my room around, stuff like that. I talked about it in a vlog that I think I'm going to post after this. So this is going to be my first video of everything looking like this. Please excuse the hideous fan. A bitch gets hot at night, what can I say? Anyways, let's just talk about the books that I read in October. So I only read 5 books in the month of October because I just had a lot going on in my personal life, a lot of changes happening and transitions and things like that. So I really didn't read that much. So only 5 books we're gonna talk about today, but they're all 4 stars and up. So I had a really good reading month. So we'll just go ahead and chat about all of those. The first book I read in October was Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This is an adult mystery thriller, and you are following Adam and Amelia as they're going on a weekend trip to Scotland, I believe. And it's basically this story just about their doomed marriage, and they both kind of hate each other, and all you know is that they are both weird and sketchy, and they literally just fucking hate each other. This is definitely like a domestic kind of thriller, but it is so good. The twist at the end is amazing. I was thoroughly intrigued by absolutely everything in this book as I was reading. Like, I just could not put it down. I think I finished it in like a few days. It was just really good. I listened to it on audio as well, and the audiobook, both narrators are really good. I really enjoy Alice Feeney. This is the 3rd book that I've read by her, and I literally think all of them that I've read so far have been 4 or 5 stars, but this one is 100% my favorite, and I rated this 5 stars. So if you guys want to pick up a good thriller that is a domestic thriller, but kind of not so boring. It's not as boring as like your typical domestic thrillers, in my opinion, because domestic thrillers aren't really my favorite, but this one is really good. And I think this one is really good to pick up right now in like the fall, winter time, because the vibes are immaculate. But yeah, it was really good, so please read it. The next 2 books that I read were part of a reading vlog that I did, where I read 2 of Bailey from Bailey Nicole Reed's favorite books. So I will leave that vlog linked down below so you guys can check it out. It was really fun, and it was just a vibe. The first book that I finished was It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. And I know this is like a very strange book to be reading in October. It is not spooky vibes whatsoever, but the vibes are immaculate in this fucking book. This is an adult romance that follows Piper, and she is this very stereotypical rich girl brat kind of character, and she doesn't really get taken seriously ever. She ends up throwing this massive party because she gets dumped by her boyfriend, and she ends up getting arrested. So her stepdad sends her to go to this little town in Washington as kind of like an exile type thing for her to get her shit together and stop being a dumb bitch. There is where she meets Brendan, who is a local fisherman, and obviously this is a romance, so it just kind of follows their relationship dynamic. And honestly, this book is like chef's kiss, okay? This book is so incredible. I loved every single second of this. I think it's really interesting too, because I'm someone that even with books that I really love, I'll give a book 5 stars, but there's always something that I'm like, a little bit boring, or don't really care about that subplot, especially with romances. Like, I find it very difficult for me to read a romance and be absolutely obsessed with every single thing that happens. And that's how I felt with this book. Like, I literally loved every single conversation, every single instance of just Piper being Piper. I love her relationship with her sister Hannah. I love the growth that Piper went through in this book. Even the conflict, like normally in romances, obviously there's like this 3rd act conflict that is a little bit, because obviously the couple has to like argue and separate before they get back together with like the big, you know, declaration of love type of thing. But this one, I think the conflict was done so well. I think it was so realistic to both Brendan and Piper and their insecurities. And it's just, so incredible. I cannot wait to read the second book because it is gonna be between Hannah and Fox, and I think it's gonna be like a friends to lovers. I'm going to literally die because I was already obsessed with their relationship in this book. And it's just so good. You guys need to fucking read this if you have not already. This is the first Tessa Bailey I've ever read, and I'm kind of like already a Tessa Bailey stan just from this book, literally without reading anything else. So I definitely need to pick up some of her other stuff. But this is just like top tier romance. Literally top tier romance. I am obsessed. Yeah, I gave it 5 stars also. I don't know if I mentioned that. Duh, 5 stars. Easy 5 stars. The next book that I read for that reading vlog was An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. So this book, incredible as well. I really loved this. This is a YA fantasy, and in this one you are following 2 characters. You're following Laya and Elias. Elias is a part of this military academy. He is training to be what they call a mask. So masks are basically these like really ruthless killers and fighters, and they kill people committed of treason and like all this crazy shit. And then you are also following Laya, and Laya is a part of the Scholar faction, and they have basically been overrun by the Martial Empire, which is what this military academy that Elias is a part of. I'm doing a terrible job explaining this. It's because it's fantasy. I don't know how to fucking explain fantasies ever. Basically, Elias' brother gets arrested for treason, and she's trying to get him back. So she ends up finding these group of rebels who are saying that they will help her as long as she goes in and spies on the head of that military academy. That's kind of all I really want to say about what this story is about. I think this book is best if you go into it pretty blindly. I didn't really know what this book was about whatsoever when I started reading it, and I think that was best. I think everything came as a shock to me. Everything was super interesting and intriguing. I just really loved this. I think that Laya and Elias's characters were so interesting, and I love that both of their stories explored this theme of freedom and what it means to be truly free, and how their ideas of that differ but are also very similar. I don't know, it was just really good. I really recommend this if you like YA fantasy. I honestly think this is my favorite YA fantasy that I have read, and I'm just super excited to pick up the second one and read it because I just want to know what the fuck's gonna happen. Yeah, so good. I rated this 5 stars. Next book that I finished in October was The Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer L. Armentrout. And once again, this shit was so good. This is a fantasy romance book, and it is the 3rd book in the From Blood and Ash series. If you read this book series, you know that the books pick up like immediately after the last book. So it's like seconds later. Like it's not even a couple like seconds later, like it picks up exactly where it left off. And the ending of A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire was just like, what the fuck? So the fact that this picked up right there and it just kept chugging along, I had whiplash reading the beginning of this book. Also, if you guys have read other books in the series, you know that the beginning of the books, like probably the first half, are usually quite slow. It's just a lot of like information, a bit of relationship development, but there's not that much plot that actually happens. Not in this book. There was just so much shit happening in the beginning of this that I was not expecting, you know, because I was used to the formula of like half the book being basically nothing and then everything happening in the second half. But I feel like this just the whole time was just thing after thing after thing, and then there was a little bit of a lull in the middle, I would say. But I mean, this book is so fucking huge. It's like 700 pages. Yeah, it's like 640 pages, so like duh, there's gonna be parts that are like a little bit of a lull, but honestly it was so good. The ending of this, I was like, yes, give it to me. The character development that Poppy goes through in this, especially, immaculate. I loved it. Poppy kind of annoyed me in A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, but Poppy was that bitch in this book. Honestly, she redeemed herself. Still love Kieran, still love Hawk, obviously. Yeah, it was just really good. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars just because, I don't know why, but there was just something in me that I was like, this isn't a 5 star. But it's 4.5, so still super fucking good. And the last book that I finished in October was The Night She Disappeared by Lisa Jewell. This one is an adult mystery thriller. It follows two separate timelines. You are following a timeline in 2017 about this 19-year-old girl named Tallulah, and she ends up going missing, and her mom Kim is trying to figure out what happened to her and find her daughter. And then you are also following a storyline in 2019 where a woman named Sophie ends up moving into this new boarding school with her boyfriend, and she ends up finding a clue outside of their little cottage that reopens the cold case of Tallulah's disappearance. That's all I really want to say, because as with all mystery thrillers, I think they're a lot better when you go into it not really knowing much. This one especially, I just really liked this. I was kind of nervous because the last Lisa Jewell I read, Invisible Girl, was not my favorite. It wasn't bad by any means, but it just wasn't like fantastic. But this one was super interesting. I felt really engaged the entire time reading, and sometimes with mystery thrillers, there could be little parts to it that you're like, okay, I don't really care. But I think that the back and forth between the two timelines was really helpful, honestly. And there's also a little bit of a timeline thrown in there through Tallulah's perspective that kind of follows her a little bit before she ends up disappearing. And it's just a really good mystery thriller. I really enjoyed it. I think the only reason why I didn't give this a 5-star, I gave it a 4-star, was because I felt the ending was good. I liked the ending. I liked the explanation of what happened, but I do think that the book ended a little bit abruptly. I kind of would have liked it if I saw a little bit more of the aftermath, but that's just me being very nitpicky, honestly, because the actual like gut of the story was really good and very interesting. And honestly, this made me excited to read more Lisa Jewell as well, because after Invisible Girl, I was like, but this was really good. I'm very happy about it. So I definitely recommend this if you guys like Lisa Jewell and you want a very fast, quick paced read. It was good. I was vibing. I liked it. All right, you guys, those are the 5 books that I finished in October. Already November is a lot better of a reading month for me, and we're still in the beginning of it, so I'm feeling a lot better about that. But yeah, please let me know if you guys have read any of these books, what you think about them, and just thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you all in my next video. Bye.